Is this bad news for the Seahawks, bro? You're still on the, before you answer, I'm sorry. Can you give us an update on where you are? Because Nick has been solidly Seattle.
Well, you don't know that.
It feels like it.
I've had to balance out from the propaganda that you've been
I've been on the Patriots since week 4, but all of a sudden I'm a fool. We're at Super Bowl week. But you said you've got an open mind.
In my mind, I feel like I know who I'm picking, but I won't share it till tomorrow, Friday. But I will say this, Nick, you know I've been taking notes and listening to even our experts from the Super Bowl, the players, and you guys. And Seattle is dominating, like in the checklist.
Why is that?
I mean, everybody's saying stuff that's leading me to think Seattle's going to win. Everybody. All the players, Nick, Coach, everybody except you.
Coach? Are you sure, Coach?
Well, you're right. Coach sounds like he might pick the Patriots.
And that would,
but
if he
does,
does, that's hard overhead. That's a Vrabel, Josh McDaniels
also
thing.
One upset alert this year, and it's proven to be right several times.
He was a good upset alert guy.
Sorry.
But most of the checks, it's something like 14-3 or something like that. A check mark. So, but that doesn't mean that's how I'm going to go. We'll see tomorrow.
Okay.
But anyway, for this, look, obviously a healthy Drake Maye is better for the Patriots, better for the game, and worse for Seattle. But should they be afraid? I mean, they just beat Matthew Stafford, who threw 15 more touchdowns or something like that than Drake Maye did. They just beat Brock Purdy.
Oh, my gosh,
sake.
Brock Purdy.
They ran through Brock Purdy in the Niners.
Before the game in the hotel lobby.
I mean, the question, should he scare them, or is it bad news for Seattle? No. And Drake is great and had, at one point I did have him number 1 on my MVP ballot. I got him number 2 over, at the end of the year. But he doesn't, it's very unlikely he throws for 300 yards and even 3 touchdowns.
You want to go KW?
Look, I'm trying to be fair.
You don't need to be fair.
I'm trying to be fair.
Into your
Here's the thing.
Nick's not fair with the Chiefs. He's not fair with the Chiefs at all.
I am
he
fair
thinks
with the
he
Chiefs.
is. He's
I've just
completely
been right all the time.
unfair.
With all due respect, bro, you don't know what I've been going through. I got dressed down in my shared office.
No, because
he pulled me aside, closed the door, sat
true.
down like he was my dad. But you know what it was? It was the first grandfather moment on the show. He's like, look, I've been in this take game for a long time. You're headed down the wrong path.
This is true, but that's because here's the thing, and I'll just do it here.
Here we go.
I told him.
You know this. You're CJ Stroud right now. Just so you know, the lecture that led to the losing. I'm just saying that's where you're at.
But I have, God, was the New Year's resolution be less humble?
Yes.
I have accomplished more in the take game than CJ Stroud as NFL quarterback, so I can do this.
Fair. And he often gives good advice.
It was simply that if you are leaning towards, just like you were for the AFC Championship game, which it didn't end up working out, but it kind of did because they won, Patriots comfortably. Right. My suggestion was have the analysis be more about the Patriots are better than you think, and less about the Seahawks are frauds because Wild doesn't actually think.
I like
to
throw a little bit of frauds in there, though.
And so,
just a little.
So when I say I'm saying you don't have to be fair. You do get to wear the hat of the entire media. The only person who saw the Patriots being in this game as a possibility months ago.
Yes.
So you have planted your flag on, you guys are still not yet properly rating how good my team is.
This dynamic is genuinely challenging when your perspective originates from a place of team allegiance, because Nick explicitly stated earlier something to the effect of, I don't immerse myself in Chiefs fandom. I'm simply accurate. I'm consistently correct. And yet, you previously asserted they would reach the Super Bowl this year, and they failed to even qualify for the postseason. You predicted a three-peat championship victory, and that did not materialize. So, it's a difficult position to maintain when your analyses are fundamentally derived from fan enthusiasm, to be perfectly candid. Consequently, the fact that I have been commending the New England Patriots for such an extended duration, and that praise is not born from personal fandom, to me, that carries slightly greater significance. I'm merely stating that. I'm just putting it out there. I'm simply saying. But I mean, listen, everyone. I'm going to be entirely forthright with you. I recall reaching an absolute saturation point. I need to verify the timing. It may have been the Thursday preceding the Super Bowl last year, or at the very latest, that Friday. I have a sense it was Thursday, and I distinctly remember arriving at such a breaking point with the incessant Super Bowl media coverage that I declared, "This is the final one." And I believe it was an Eagles-related video. I stated, "This is the last Eagles video I will engage with until the Super Bowl itself." I was simply finished. That's what transpires with these dialogues when we're incessantly discussing the identical two franchises. And I mean, how many conversations regarding Drake Maye's shoulder have we endured at this stage? I viewed this segment live, naturally, but while I was preparing it, I could still observe that Graphic Nick presented, the visual comparing Drake Maye's statistics from September to October, and then from November through January. And I just thought, I am not going to engage with this. I am simply not going to do it. We have already exhausted that topic. We have already deliberated it. There already exists an undertone of attempting to diminish Drake Maye's accomplishments or something similar. And it's genuinely tiresome. Honestly, Super Bowl week invariably functions as a slight precursor to the off-season because you commence having discussions about subjects that prompt the question, how much does this genuinely matter? We're already debating topics like Max Crosby potentially being traded from the Raiders. Should the Dallas Cowboys pursue George Pickens in free agency? It elicits a reaction of, "Oh, brother." And now, concerning the teams actually preparing to compete in the literal Super Bowl, we're still confronted with headlines like, "Healthy Maye bad news for Seahawks defense." I never questioned Drake Maye's health status to begin with. And now we're attempting to draw conclusions from this data about his deep passing proficiency, inclusive of playoff performances and so forth. It's just a laborious exercise, honestly. It truly is. At minimum, the environment is slightly less frenetic this year. Last season, they were situated down in New Orleans or some such location, and it was incredibly cacophonous with a live audience present. You could perceive them conducting, like Colin hosting his program, and you could even observe construction occurring on the street in the background. It was profoundly chaotic. I believe that atmosphere also contributed to me not merely reaching a saturation point, but literally concluding, "Bro, I'm done. I cannot endure this any longer. I cannot listen to it. I cannot watch it." I was thinking, I don't even comprehend what this is currently. Presently, at least they are situated in a studio, so the ambiance is considerably more subdued. But we simply do not need to persist in revisiting these specific numerical metrics right now and endeavor to decipher their implication for this Super Bowl. Essentially, this signifies nothing. That is the reality. This specific data point signifies absolutely nothing. Nothing. Whether Drake Maye completes 0 out of 4 deep passes holds no relevance. Whether he completes 5 out of 5 for 5 touchdowns on deep passes holds no relevance. It is not an indicator of anything. It is not a trend. It is not a trajectory. It is not a foundation for predicting future outcomes. No, 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 no. The Super Bowl is uniquely idiosyncratic. Merely consider the most recent Super Bowl we all observed and witnessed. The Philadelphia Eagles' offensive strategy unfolded in a manner completely divergent from their approach throughout the entire regular season. Saquon Barkley was not a dominant force in the ground attack. Jalen Hurts was distributing the ball across the entire field. He functioned as the leading rusher. That Eagles defensive unit was exceptional, yet the Kansas City Chiefs possessed tremendous offensive momentum. They amassed a colossal point total against the Buffalo Bills. And then that momentum came to an absolute screeching halt. Observing the manner in which that contest developed, you would have inquired, how did the Kansas City Chiefs even qualify for the playoffs, let alone advance to the Super Bowl? Witnessing the Philadelphia Eagles' performance, you would ponder, how are they not an undefeated squad? How did they not triumph in every contest by 30 points? The Super Bowl is simply that particular. It is exceptionally specific. Therefore, even attempting to utilize statistical data from the month of October appears nonsensical to me. Data from November appears nonsensical. Data from December appears nonsensical. Even data from the most recent playoff contest, I am uncertain how much it genuinely matters at this precise juncture. I do not know, unless there exists concrete, contradictory evidence of a tangible limitation. For instance, if Drake Maye were physically incapable of running, correct? If he were completely immobile and yet someone claimed otherwise, you would retort, "What are you discussing?" In the AFC Championship game, he rushed for 65 yards, right? That constitutes substantially more concrete evidence. But that is not the information we are presently compelled to evaluate, specifically due to the unique circumstances of those games, weather conditions, and other variables. Hence, from my standpoint, persistently rehashing some of this analysis prompts the question, I am uncertain what purpose it serves, and I am also personally uncertain of its entertainment value, because ultimately, this realm is about entertainment. It is about cultivating interest, correct? And I suppose, once again, this represents one of those instances where I attempt to employ my own perceptions regarding this material as a reference point to gauge how other individuals might be feeling. And it's just, I don't know. I believe I generally wrestle somewhat with Super Bowl coverage because it merely replicates the same subject matter repeatedly and incessantly. If you have observed my recent video content, I am producing segments about the Tennessee Titans, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Atlanta Falcons, precisely because I have reached a point where I contemplate, how many times can I continue reiterating that I believe Sam Darnold is exceptional, that Drake Maye is the MVP, that we should cease obsessing over Drake Maye's deep passing metrics from November? I simply don't know. I am uncertain. Therefore, I am merely curious because, I commenced today thinking, all right, how is the First Things First program going to inaugurate their broadcast? I always find that intriguing. This is the principal narrative, the core segment. And it transpires to be Drake Maye's shoulder. And I react with, oh my goodness, okay, all right, what precisely are we asserting here? And then, while attempting to isolate the clip, I encounter that graphical comparison and I think, oh my gosh, September to November, September to October, November to January. What exactly are we accomplishing here? Come on. That is precisely why I referenced my breaking point from the previous year. I believe it likely involved some analysis concerning Jalen Hurts, where they insisted Jalen Hurts cannot pass the football, or they claimed the Eagles simply cannot win, or Colin asserting the Eagles would not even reach the red zone, correct? Those represent the types of takes we were all subjected to. And yet, Jalen Hurts ultimately secured the literal Super Bowl MVP award. The Eagles. I am uncertain how many occasions they reached the red zone, but I am aware they scored a substantial number of points. It was the Chiefs who encountered difficulty accessing the red zone, and frankly, only reached it, and particularly the end zone, once the game's outcome was conclusively determined. Thus, it's just, I don't know. Super Bowl coverage is genuinely arduous. I comprehend the rationale for a 2-week interval. It is the most logical time frame. However, it is challenging. Ideally, from a pure discussion perspective, it would merely constitute an additional week before the Super Bowl, correct? Because we possess 2 entire weeks to deliberate these teams, and we have already exhaustively analyzed everything. We have articulated every conceivable point. Consequently, I am simply intrigued by how this all resonates with you. What do these varieties of conversations signify for you at this stage? And how do you personally navigate them? Because my own attention disengages. That is the genuine truth. I am being honest. Even with programs I genuinely appreciate and consistently view, I reach a point where I think, all right, I do not require another 5-minute soliloquy from Colin regarding the excellence of Coach Mike Vrabel, or concerning what is at stake for Sam Darnold. I feel there is nothing novel left to express. There exists no new insight to contribute. Is a fully healthy Drake Maye unfavorable news for the Seahawks defense? Affirmative, because Drake Maye is a phenomenal quarterback. Drake Maye is an elite talent. That does not guarantee he will dominate the Seahawks, nor does it imply the Seahawks are now intimidated. But certainly, any instance where a great quarterback is at full physical capacity, yes, the opposing defense must contend with that reality. That is simply the nature of professional football. That is merely the sport. And I am entirely indifferent to Drake Maye's passer rating on deep throws during the month of November. I simply do not care. It is irrelevant. It holds no significance. I am unconcerned with Drake Maye's deep ball completion percentage against the Houston Texans. I am indifferent. It is inconsequential. It carries no weight because Drake Maye is not a fragile or inconsistent quarterback. If Drake Maye were a quarterback, we perceived as a transient phenomenon. A player we had observed for years performing inadequately, who then suddenly produced one remarkable season. And we began to witness cracks revealing his authentic self again as the season progressed from November onward, leading us to conclude, he is reverting to his established form. Then perhaps that would constitute a legitimate conversation. I could comprehend that analysis. That is not the conversation we are having presently. But those are merely my personal reflections. I would be absolutely delighted to hear your perspectives. What are your thoughts? Does a healthy Drake Maye represent bad news for the Seahawks defensive unit? Please inform me of your views. I read every single comment. Therefore, whether you concur with me or dissent. Either way, let's engage in some discussions. Let's engage in some debates. But ultimately, let's simply derive some enjoyment. And please do consider subscribing. We are cultivating an amazing community here, and I would absolutely cherish seeing you participate. I aspire to build something to which we all feel a genuine connection, something we are authentically enthusiastic about being involved in. I believe we are substantially progressing toward that objective. Please do not forget to approve this video with a positive rating, as it genuinely assists with visibility and the platform's algorithm. Thank you so very much.